Greetings, all Shard Vixen here, and today we're going to talk about something that was part of my life, not necessarily part of my life now, which is camping. Uh, my parents divorced when I was 16 years old. That would be in 1980 or so, I think. I turned 18 in 1983, so 1981. So in around 1981. But prior to that, and that was followed by an event in which my youngest uncle, who was 7 years older than me, was killed. And so those two events happened within a very short period of time of each other. At least in my mind's eye, I'm sure it was more than, or at least 6 months or more, but in my mind's eye. So, and that changed the whole camping scene. For one reason, because my dad wasn't no longer in the scene, but also because camping was a huge event. We started camping at Memorial Weekend, and we went camping off and on all the way until Labor Day. And then there were always a big family vacation in there, which may or may not have had camping in it, or more likely we traveled from, we'd take us, my dad would pick a spot and we would drive to that spot and then visit all the places, very touristy, and come back. I seen the Grand Canyon, I saw the Tetons, I went to the Painted Canyon, the place in Utah with the dinosaurs, the Four Corners. I saw all those stuff as a kid. But around age 16, that ended. And then my family on my mom's side, which is a huge extended family, that uncle that had died was on that side of the family. They continued to go camping. They continued to do those things, but I did not go for lots of various reasons. Most of it mental health issues, and how they dealt with me. And then when my daughter was born, I tried to go camping with them all, but they'd invite her, but not me. I know, kind of silly. It's hard to explain. People are like, what? And then it just started to be that I just never showed up. My daughter would go when she was younger, camping with them. My son has never been camping with them, but my son is special, and they don't always know how to deal with him. So that being said, I thought I'd talk about camping that I remember. I've gone camping since then by myself. I've gone camping by myself. I've gone camping with my stepsister. I've gone camping with friends. I did a lot of Ren Fair stuff. That has some camping in it. Not like the camping that we did per se, but you still had to, you weren't in a hotel. You were in a tent, and you had to cook your meals and, do that kind of stuff during the period of time you were in the Ren Fair, because you had to stay in character, kind of, I don't know, somewhat, so that when people, because they hire, I don't know how much you guys know about Renaissance fairs or fairy fairs or any type of fair where you dress up or whatever, but the way it works is that they hire you as an entertainer. I've gone to a couple by myself as the fool, but mostly it's that kind of a thing. So, but camping, there's pictures of me. I remember being small. I'm going to say maybe 4 years old, 5 years old, crawling into the back of my grandfather's station wagon. My grandfather, the way he described camp, he's been camping his whole life. The way he described his trip from the East Coast to the West Coast was one real long camping trip with a very long stay over in Colorado, where he had 3 children. He had 3 children on the West Coast, 3 children in Colorado, and then 2 more children were born in California. So camping was a big deal. My grandparents had a trailer for as long as I can remember. One of those little caravan trailers, the little round ones. Very tiny kind of trailer. And it just had a comfort zone, his comfort zone, but he loved to wander the woods. And I'm kind of the same way. As a child, that was what I like to do. I learned to fish. Most of my time, my birthday was spent camping. It was either at my grandmother's house or camping until I got into my teen years. And then we didn't, wasn't as much. But yes, we'd go camping. And it'd be not like 2 or 3 days. It'd be a week long or more camping. So usually what would occur is maybe one of my aunts or my uncles would show up and find a spot and rent the whole spot for everybody. And then when my dad got his vacation, or my mother would decide that we were going later on, we would go, and then we would camp out, get our tents all set up and everything, and camp out and be there for a week. And then my grandparents would show up, and they'd stay a week longer. So at any given time, I could have been camping for 3 weeks if that was my choice. It just depended on who got there first and what was going on and who I ended up staying with at when I was younger. As I got older as a teen, I didn't really want to be camping as much because I didn't want to be with my parents as much. I think the last time I went camping with the family during that really troublesome time, I met a guy camping, and we decided we were boyfriend and girlfriend after a week. It was a wonderful, fun time. We chatted a lot on the phone when I got home, and when I left home, in a kind of angry, being kicked out, I'm leaving, running away kind of thing, my mom thought that's where I was going to go, and she had the police waiting in Napa for me. But I only saw him one more time after we had gone camping, and then we just kind of called it quits at that point in time, because even though long distance relationships were kind of a thing when I was a teen, it was slowly kind of fading out if you didn't have a car. And I didn't have a car, and he didn't have a car, so I thought he was a very cute guy, and I loved making out with him. That was really fun. That was one of my better camping experiences. But so what I want to talk about was where I went camping, because really, like, I'd been to, like I said, we went on vacations, and we'd been everywhere, to Canada, to Tijuana, you know, all up and down California, on the California coast. My grandparents loved going to the coast, so we always went at least once to the coast to go camping. But my father was not as interested in the coast as he was in going to the mountains. So I was born in Sacramento, but we lived in Roseville, California, which somebody out there's going to say, I know who you are, and that's fine. You can know me. I don't have a problem with it. You can even tell everybody that you know who I am. I was not popular in school, so the people that might remember me would probably say mean things about me at that time. And, you know, I've been pretty honest on my blog, so I'm not worried about it. Anyway, and if you get into a thing with me, we'll hear it from my point of view, and it's what I remember. Probably won't make anybody look nice. Because I don't remember nice things about people. I just remember all the mean, rotten things they all did to me. Anyway, so you can get a map out. You do Google Maps. So if you want to see where it is, I'm going to put pictures up of the maps from Google Maps of the places that I haunted. So one of our favorite places is Jackson Meadows. And well, Jackson Meadows, Bowman Lake, and Spalding Lake are all in like this weird little triangle. Um, and then French Meadows and Hellhole Reservoir and Tahoe are in a southern area of it. So it's the Tahoe National Forest and the Plumas National Forest, and I think the end of it's probably still Tahoe National Forest. I mean, Sierra Nevadas, you're up in the Sierra Nevadas at that point in time. But I'm looking at my map. That's why. And that's why we're sitting here. It's a little darker. The light's behind me rather than in front of me. It's a little warm today, which is why I'm wearing the tank top. So you're seeing Grammy's skin. Oh, no. When we do the rambling, we might talk about my skin. But it's not completely gone. So maybe not. Anyway, so all the rivers in the area, I went hiking along the rivers. My favorite thing, like I said, I learned to fish. I know how to gut a fish. I know how to catch a fish. I know how to set up a fishing pole. I can actually set fish without a fishing pole with just a string and a sinker and a hook. I know how to do that. Um, I've learned some weird fish traps over the period of time. I don't really into fish traps. I've learned how to tickle fish. You know, if you lay long enough and quiet enough, the fish will come up, see what you're doing. I've done that. I've done, I've used a compound bow, and shot fish, especially catfish. Um, love fish, love eating catfish, always have. But my favorite part of going to camping was, besides the s'mores, which I was never a big s'more eater. We weren't allowed to have s'mores as a kid, except every once in a while when we went camping. But my most favorite event was just going and looking, like taking a spot that I hadn't been before and hiking further and further out. I hiked when I got into my teenage years. So when I was 16, there camping with my family kind of ended. When I was 18, though, I mean, I probably went camping off and on. I just don't remember it very well because that was during the period of time from about 15 to 18 when I was doing a lot of drugs. So there's a lot of pieces missing from there. I know I went camping and we did stuff in Folsom and hung out. All of us would go out and drink and hang out at the lake, and that was the thing. But I don't remember it clearly enough to have a conversation about it because it probably wasn't that big of a deal. What I do remember is that at the age of 18, going on 19, I met a gentleman who I label as my second great love. We didn't. We were together for 5 years, but they were not very good 5 years, I don't think. Probably the first year was really good, in the second year, and then after that it was one of those things that you kind of looking back knew that probably after the second year we should have probably just kind of separated, and then that would have been much better. But neither of us wanted to kind of let go of that. So, but we went camping all the time. We went camping on the coast. We went camping up on in those areas, Spalding Lake, Bowman Lake, Lake Tahoe, Donner. But we would start at the lake and then hike our way up higher to some of the lakes that were up higher. Things that he had remembered going to when he was a kid, and things I remembered going to as a kid, that my father had keys that you unlocked because they were part of the railroad property. And now then they started opening them up to the public. You could hike up to them, but there were areas that were just off limits because they were considered private land. They were owned by the Southern Pacific Railroad, which doesn't exist anymore, if I remember right. I think there was a merger done between Union and Southern Pacific, and they're called something else now. But all along that from Sacramento to Reno and Sacramento to Dunsmuir, there were keys that were for the private property that had lakes on it. Most of them were electric lakes. They were used by SMUD, which is the big, and PG&E. Those are the two. They were the two big giant electric power companies in California, Northern California at that time. I don't know that they still are. I think PG&E was. I remember PG&E in Redding, but I don't know if they still are to this point. I can't tell you. I haven't been back to those areas since I was in my 20s. Which is kind of sad. I probably should take a trip one of these times and go to Jackson Meadows, which, you know, is kind of a ways. I remember it being ways out, but that was like, what, 30 years ago? Or more? 30 to 40 years ago. I'm sure things have changed if they haven't, if more of those places haven't become ghost towns. A lot of the little towns, Roseville, Rockland, Pendrin, Colfax, Meadow Vista, Blue Canyon, what's another one? Kingsville, Cisco, Donner, Soda Springs. Soda Springs was a big place for us. That was our halfway mark. We always stopped there, got gas, did whatever. Donner was okay because sometimes we'd go and spend the day at Donner Lake, go swimming. Really cold lake. Always, that was such a cold lake. I've been further north, like Alamo, Lake Alamo, I think it is. Can't remember the name of it. Lake Eleanor, little small mountain lakes. I've been there too, gone camping there as well, because family members had decided that's where they wanted to go camping. When I was in Redding, I did camping out at Whiskey Town. I did camping in Lassen. Um, Never went camping at Shasta Mountain. That'd have been kind of fun, I guess. I've been out to lakes, gone hiking, and did day hikes on them. I did some of the Pacific Crest Trail hikes when I was younger. Um, we did a lot of, me and the gentleman did some hiking where we hiked and camped overnight and then, hiked a little further and came back because he was big into photography. Um, my kids keep asking me to go camping, which is why I was thinking about it a lot lately. I had some bad experience in camping. This is going a little longer, but I got a hook caught in this part of my head because where I was standing, somebody flipped. I wasn't watching, and they cast it out, and it caught me here and then ripped across. It was very painful. It missed my eye, so that was always. I think it was this side. I don't have a scar or nothing, but that wasn't one of the more fun ones. And then I had younger cousins that were really young, and one of them peed on the outside of the tent the night before we all crawled into bed, and I woke up completely covered in big black ants. And my whole sleeping bag, everything was just covered in ants. That was about the time, I think it was about 12, 13 years old when that happened, and I never slept on the ground again. I was either in a car or in a hammock. My grandfather bought me a hammock, and the hammock was always put up between the trees, and that's where I would sleep. I couldn't sleep on the ground anymore because of that whole episode. I mean, the whole floor of the tent was just black with ants. It was the most horrific experience in my whole camping period of time that I've ever had. I have fallen and hurt myself. I have cut myself. I have almost drowned. I have done all kinds of really strange things, but that had to be like the worst. I have come almost nose to nose with a bear in a car. I did come nose to nose with a big giant bull on a camping trip, on our way to a camping trip, but I was like in like 19, I think, 20, and we were all cruising up the old mountain roads and coming around a corner, and there was a big old giant bull, because they would let the animals run. The cattle would run the national forests. Ranchers would pay to have him run, and he was huge, and he did not like our car, and he wouldn't move, and we kind of just had to sit there and wait for him to decide that he was done with that particular part of the road. But he, for a long time, didn't want to leave. He didn't come closer, but he didn't, and they grow pretty wild until they go and get them and pull them for corralling and other things and beefing. So that's it. I mean, I got tons and tons of stories of camping. I kind of wanted to touch on the subject. We can always revisit it. I can talk about each of the different places, why we went there. Like I said, the last time I went camping was around the time of my after my uncle died, because we took his ashes out to French Meadows and we just let him go. That's kind of where. So French Meadows is the family spot of the area. I probably should take my kids there sometime. I know my daughter's been, because it's 13 years between my kids. But, all right, that's it. This got to be a really weird, rambly kind of style. But next week's vlog is a rambling vlog. I'm not sure how that day's going to look. I have a visitor. My son's father's coming. He'll be here for a week, so it's always hard to do vlogs when he's here. My daughter got a new camera that I get to use for vlogging outside, but it doesn't have the microphone yet. So maybe I'll just go out and take some pictures out and about that Saturday, because then her and I are going to the ocean, and we're going to try to do some streaming out the ocean tethered to our phones. See how that works. But I won't have the mic yet, so we'll be playing around with it and experimenting. But I'm going to try to hook into my vlogs at least once a month to twice a month out and about, to help me with my fibromyalgia and just to be more entertaining instead of just listening to me. I don't know much about Oregon, so I thought it'd be fun to go and explore Oregon And when we go down to Reading, I could take some stuff and we can talk about Reading and stuff like that. Okay, I'm out here. Catch you all on the flip side.